I used to work the night shift at an abandoned hospital in upstate New York. People always ask me why. Why the hell would someone take a job like that alone, overnight, in a rotting building that hadn't seen a patient in nearly 2 decades? The truth is, I needed the money. I'd just gotten out of a really bad place in life. I'd lost my job as a warehouse foreman. My marriage had collapsed, and I was 1 bad week away from sleeping in my car. So when I got the call from this obscure contracting company, Praxon Security and Logistics, saying they needed someone for a low-risk overnight monitor role, I jumped at it. They didn't tell me much, just that the site was an old hospital being cleared for demolition, and that my job was to sit in the security trailer outside, watch the cameras, and report anything unusual. Seemed easy enough. Boring, sure. But I could handle boring. They didn't. Mention level -1, or what was left inside the morgue. ... That was the first night. I broke protocol. I left the trailer, walked straight to the hospital. Not because I wanted to, because something was calling me. ... Then, the dragging started again. It wasn't fast. It never was. It scraped across the tile in slow, irregular bursts, like something pulling itself along by its fingernails. It echoed through the walls, rising up the stairwell and leaking into every monitor, even though the cameras were dead. I couldn't move. Every hair on my body stood up. I was frozen, not out of fear, but out of instinct. Like prey. The dragging stopped, and then came the knock. Not on the trailer door, on the window. I didn't want to look. I knew not to look, but I did. There was no one there, just a single wet handprint smeared across the glass, slowly dripping, the same one I'd seen on the camera lens. I didn't sleep that day either. When I returned the following night, the site was lit up more than usual. Hutchins was there, arguing with a man I didn't recognize, tall, thin, gray suit, no ID badge. The man looked at me once, just once, and I swear I forgot my own name for half a second. Hutchins pulled me aside. "You didn't go down there, did you?" I lied. "No." He didn't push, just nodded, then handed me a new keycard. "There, replacing the cameras. Don't worry about the static tonight." I wanted to ask about the handprint, about the logbook, about the woman, but I didn't. Some things you don't bring up in the light. That night, none of the monitors showed B-L-1. The feed had been removed entirely. But the sound remained, somewhere behind the silence of the other cameras, buried in the white noise and hum of electrical interference. I could still hear her breathing, dragging, waiting, ... On my last night, I arrived, to find the trailer door wide open, the lights inside flickering. The heater was on full blast, despite it being a warm evening. The monitors were all playing looped footage, older recordings, nothing live, and in the center of the desk, ... a body tag, my name on it, my full name. I backed out slowly. Something cracked beneath my foot. I looked down. A photo, black and white, faded. A group of hospital staff in front of the building, maybe 1960s. I scanned the faces. My blood ran cold. The woman was there, not drowned, not twisted, just standing, smiling. A nurse, maybe. And next to her was me, younger, different clothes, but undeniably me. That was the last night I worked for Praxon. I didn't quit. They never called again. Sometimes I still check job sites. The listing is gone. The company's phone number doesn't work. But last week, I got a package. No return address. Inside was a single VHS tape, labeled BL1, Final Shift. I haven't watched it, and I never will, but at night, I still hear the dragging. I was 23 when I signed on as a volunteer for a cleanup crew at an abandoned children's hospital in rural Pennsylvania. It was supposed to be simple, 6 weeks of debris removal, tagging old files for disposal, in general clearing out before The demolition team arrived. The pay was crap, but they covered housing, and I needed to get out of the city. My therapist said the isolation might help. The hospital was called Fairhaven Memorial, closed in 1988 after a series of patient deaths and a fire that gutted one of the wings. No official cause for the fire was ever found. I'd seen the place from the outside when I first arrived. Tall, red brick, with peeling white paint on the window frames, and weeds choking the pavement. Something about it looked ... tired, like it was waiting to be erased. We worked during the day. They wouldn't let us stay past 5 p.m., said the structure wasn't stable at night, but that wasn't true. The building was fine. It was something else they didn't want us to see. ... It started with a missing file box. Each team was assigned a room to catalog. Mine was the third-floor record storage. Rows of filing cabinets, old microfiche, handwritten logs and binders thick with dust. One afternoon, I turned away for a second just to grab a fresh marker, and when I looked back, a full box labeled Wing C Intake Logs, 1974 to 1979, was gone, not misplaced, not knocked over, just gone. I asked the others, but no one had been near me, and Wing C had been sealed off since the fire. The next day, it was back, same box, same spot. No dust on top, but the contents were different. Instead of intake logs, the box held dozens of children's drawings, crayon and pencil, faded. Some were what you'd expect, families, sunshine, dogs, but others showed dark hallways, figures standing at the ends, rooms with beds, and children staring at the ceiling, mouths open in wide black ovals. One showed a girl, or maybe a nurse, with no eyes, just smooth skin where they should have been. She stood behind a boy in bed, one hand on his head, written at the bottom, in shaky blue ink, "She helps them leave their skin behind." I put the box back and left early that day. ... That night, I dreamed I was inside Wing C, even though I'd never seen it. I walked the halls, all burned and blackened. A red exit sign flickered at the far end, and from the rooms on either side, whispers drifted out, voices of children, soft, afraid. Then I saw her, same eyeless nurse, taller than before, standing halfway in shadow. She turned, and even without eyes, she saw me. I woke up with a nosebleed, sheets soaked in it. My fingers had dark smudges like ash under the nails. ... We weren't allowed in Wing C, but I started asking questions. Most people gave me blank stares or told me to focus on my section. One guy, Tommy, a smoker with shaking hands, pulled me aside. "You've seen her, haven't you?" He didn't wait for me to answer. They called her Nurse Adeline. Worked there until the fire. No one ever found her body. I asked, "What happened?" Tommy just said, "She stayed with the kids. When the wing caught fire, she stayed." Then he handed me something, a photograph, charred at the edges. A group of children in hospital gowns, and one adult behind them, smiling eyes, scratched out. Not with a pen, with a fingernail. ... I have more to tell. About the second box, the whisper I recorded, the day I did enter Wing C. But I need to stop for now. My hallway light just turned off, and I'm not alone. ... I tried to ignore what I saw, told myself it was stress, or maybe a prank. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something had followed me home. 2 nights later, I found another drawing in my locker. This one showed a person, me, standing in front of a door. The door had a placard that read "Seun Zito Sechi." There was a figure behind the door's window, a nurse. Her face was smudged completely out with dark gray crayon. At the bottom, it read, "She remembers you." I didn't sleep that night. ... The next morning, I asked the site supervisor if I could review the floor plans for Wing C. He looked annoyed at first, told me it was a waste of time, that the whole wing was destroyed beyond repair and sealed off. But when I insisted, He sighed and handed me an old blueprint tube. I unrolled it that afternoon in the staff lounge. Wing C was smaller than the others, only 2 hallways and 9 rooms. Room C107 was at the far end, what looked like a pediatric isolation room. There was a note scribbled in pencil near the room: no access, collapse risk, do not open. But someone had opened it. ... That night, I heard something new in my room. I live in a temporary dorm, on site, bare bones, 1 bed, a single desk, no frills. At exactly 3:17 a.m., the radiator started clanking. Not in a heating up kind of way, but like someone was tapping on it rhythmically. 3 taps, pause, 4 taps, another pause, 3 taps again, 3-4-3. I don't know why it scared me so badly, but I sat up, heart hammering. My phone was dead, even though I had it plugged in all night. Then the tapping stopped. In the silence, I heard breathing, right by my bed. But there was no one there. ... The next day I went back to the 3rd floor. Record storage. I needed to see that box again. It wasn't there. What was there was a trail of soot, thin, like ash smeared along the tile. Leading into the hallway, I followed it, to the stairwell, down all the way to the basement. The door creaked open with a protesting groan. The overhead light flickered once, then failed completely. I clicked on my flashlight and stepped into the damp, stale darkness. The smell of mildew, scorched plastic, and something coppery hit me like a wall. The soot trail was still visible, snaking across the cracked concrete floor, toward an old metal door I had never noticed before. C107. The placard read. My breath caught. This was it. The room from the drawing. I hesitated, but then I heard it faint and unmistakable. Children laughing. Not joyous laughter. The kind you'd hear behind a locked door, echoing too long, too sharp. Like a recording warped over time. My hand shook as I gripped the doorknob. It was cold, freezing. I pushed it open. The smell hit me first. Not just mold or decay, something metallic and wrong, like rust mixed with antiseptic, like blood that had been scrubbed too many times. The room wasn't completely destroyed, but it felt wrong. Beds lined the far wall, small and skeletal. The walls were scorched, streaked black in places where fire had licked through layers of white tile. There was something painted on the back wall, mostly burned away, just fragments of a phrase. ... till she returns. And in the center of the room, a single steel chair, facing away from me. Something about it made my stomach turn. Not because it was there, but because it had always been there. I stepped forward, slowly. My light trembled in my hand. The silence was total, until the air shifted, not wind, breath. The chair creaked. I froze. It turned slowly, the legs scraping across the tile. She was sitting in it, Nurse Adelyn, pale, still dressed in perfect white. Her hair burned off in patches, her face frozen in a placid, expressionless smile, and where her eyes should have been, just smooth, glistening skin. She didn't move, but the lights behind me flickered. I turned, just for a second. When I looked back, she was standing, closer, not walking, just closer. Behind her, the shadows began to move. Small shapes, crawling off the beds, slipping between rusted rails. Children, dozens of them, silent, staring. Then one of them spoke. His voice was dry, uncertain, like someone remembering how to speak. "Are you going to help her?" Another chimed in. "She stayed for us." Then another. "She needs someone new, now." I backed away, toward the door. It was gone. Not closed, just gone. A smooth, seamless wall of white tile. My flashlight began to dim, my breath frosted in the air. Everything was too quiet. Then Adeline moved. Just a flicker like a skipped frame. 1 second she was across the room. Then she was inches from my face. She didn't open her mouth, but I heard her anyway. You've seen them. Now you're part of them. Her hand touched my forehead. Cold, weightless, and everything went black. I woke up in my bunk, clothes still covered in dust and ash. My shoes damp with something I didn't recognize. A crayon drawing lay on my chest. It showed me in a bed, in Wing C. Nurse. Adeline stood behind me. She was smiling. The hallway door was open. Children were walking in. One of them looked like me. They told me I had a breakdown, that I'd been found in a crawlspace beneath the admin building, surrounded by old toys. They let me go a week later, but I never really left. It's been for months. Fairhaven is gone, demolished, rubble turned to landfill. But sometimes, at night, I hear knocking. 3 times. Pause. 4 times. Then 3, again. 3-4-3. Like the radiator that night. And a week ago, I found a door in the basement laundry room of my new apartment building, painted shut, but I could still make out the placard C-108, and just under it, in smeared crayon, she remembers you. I haven't opened it yet, but I think it's waiting, and I think I've already been inside. Last night I dreamed of the chair again, except this time, it was empty, and I was the one sitting in it. Across from me stood the children, and behind them, in the shadows, she waited, watching, smiling. I never believed in ghosts. Not really. Not until that winter I took a job as an HVAC repair contractor at a long-shuttered psychiatric hospital outside of Pittsburgh. It was the kind of place people joked about, one of those looming 1900s Europe facilities with turrets and brickwork, like a prison. The job was straightforward. Get the ancient ventilation system running well enough for an environmental inspection. The place was scheduled for conversion into a historical museum, or maybe condos. Depends who you asked. They warned us about the upper levels. Floors 4 and 5 were sealed off due to structural damage. We weren't allowed up there. Insurance reasons. My supervisor made us sign waivers, but I wasn't curious. Not at first. I just wanted to get through the 2-week contract and move on. Then one morning, on the 2nd floor, I found something that wasn't supposed to be there. A trail of footprints, small ones, like a child's, leading to the stairwell, the one that went up. I followed them. I don't know why. Curiosity, I told myself. But in truth, it was something else. A kind of pressure, like the air got heavier the higher I climbed. The 4th floor was silent, dead silent. My boots crunched on scattered plaster. Paint peeled in long curls from the walls. Doors hung off hinges. Everything smelled like dust and old rot. But there was another scent sweet, like syrup covering something spoiled underneath. I turned a corner and found a door marked a TTIC ward. It was ajar. The footprints led inside. The ward wasn't like the rest of the building. It was clean, free, like someone had been keeping it up. The beds were made. The floor was polished wood. A single light bulb flickered overhead, and along the far wall, cribs, 6 of them. Empty, except for the last one. Something moved inside it. I stepped closer. The bulb above me buzzed. Faded wallpaper. Shifted with a draft I couldn't feel. In the crib was a doll, handmade porcelain face, sewn eyes. The stitching over its mouth had been torn open, a tag around its neck read, "They never left." Then the light went out, and I heard a baby cry, except it wasn't a baby. It was deeper, wet, like something mimicking the sound. Behind me, the cribs began to shake. I turned to run, but I wasn't alone. A figure stood in the doorway, tall, dressed in white, no face, just a smear, like melted wax. It lifted its hand and pointed to me. From the shadows, voices whispered in unison, "Room for one more." I don't remember running, just the sound of something chasing me, not footsteps, more like dragging. wet cloth on wood. I made it to the stairwell and slammed the door shut behind me. But for a moment, I swear I felt something brush the back of my neck. I didn't go back to the attic, not for days, but something came back with me. In the break room, my coworkers said I looked pale. I brushed it off, blamed bad sleep, nightmares. But when I reached into my toolbox that evening, I found something I hadn't put there. A second doll, identical to the first, except this one had a stitch pulled loose at the eye, and beneath the porcelain, someone had carved a name. Mine.night. I unplugged the clock radio next to my bed. At 3:33 a.m., it turned on anyway. Not music, not static, crying. Followed by a whisper. You saw them, now they see you. I tried to leave the job early, told my boss I was sick. He told me if I didn't finish my contract, I wouldn't get paid. So I stayed, and the next day, the door to the attic ward was closed again, bolted, but from the other side, I could hear lullabies, sung off key. Too many voices, too many mouths. 2 nights ago, I started hearing the creaking. At first, just soft, like wood bending in an empty room, but it got louder, like the cribs were rocking again, except I wasn't in the attic anymore. I was in my apartment. Second floor, downtown, no children, no cribs. But at 3:33, I heard that wet dragging sound, and then the crying. Yesterday, I checked my closet, not sure why, just impulse. And I found the third doll, still warm. This one had its mouth shut tight. And under the dress, tucked inside the seam, was a note, one word, soon. I tried burning the dolls. They don't burn, they scream, quietly, like boiling tea through a kettle, soft but constant. I buried them instead, but that night, they were back on my bed, clean, untouched, lying side by side, there, sewn eyes watching the ceiling. I've taken to sleeping with the lights on, though they flicker, and in those brief moments of darkness, I see them, the children, standing in corners, under the table, crowded around the fridge, waiting. This morning. The radio didn't wait until 3:33, it turned on at 10:07 a.m., and the voice was no longer a whisper. It was her, the woman in white. Wax face, no eyes, she said. Your room is ready. I just got a letter under my door. No return address, no stamp. Inside, one sentence, typed on hospital stationery. Check the attic. I don't have an attic, but the ceiling panel in my hallway is loose. I can hear the creaking again. I climbed up tonight, took a chair, pushed the panel open. There was no insulation, no wiring, just a long hallway, wood floors, flickering lights, and at the far end, a door. A crib sat in front of it. Inside was the fourth doll. This one had my face, and next to it, a folded white gown, my size. I turned to leave, but the attic had closed behind me. I wasn't in my apartment anymore. I was back at the hospital. Only now, the beds weren't empty. They were waiting, and the woman in white was already walking toward me, her face melting, her mouth wide, and in her hands. She held the gown. Last night I stayed awake until 2:11. I sat by the laptop, audio streaming, from the mic in real time. Nothing, just low static. Then ... knocks. 3, pause. 2. Then footsteps, not echoing like before, louder, closer. Then the mic cut out. I didn't move, couldn't. 10 seconds later, the footsteps continued, not in the feed, in the hallway, right outside my room. ... I grabbed my flashlight and opened the door. Nothing, but the extension cord that powered the basement rig had been unplugged. Coiled neatly, and sitting on top of it, ... was a small, rusted tag. One used for patient ID bracelets. It read, Ward B Immersion #037... I checked the blueprints again. There's no Ward B. Not on any official record. but on a penciled-in revision near the hydrotherapy ward, I found a faint outline, a door unmarked, and what looked like a spiral staircase drawn next to it, descending. I went back down this morning, flashlight, tools, recorder, everything looked normal, or what passes for normal in that place, until I reached the far wall, the concrete panel. There was warm, and faintly vibrating. I tapped it with the end of a wrench. It sounded hollow, and then something tapped back once. Then again, I dropped the wrench and ran. Tonight, I heard the knocking again, but not from below, from the inside of my closet. There's a hospital in upstate New York, long since closed, overgrown by trees and ivy. The front entrance sunken into the ground by years of disrepair. It was called Belridge Asylum. I didn't know about its past when I signed up for the county's environmental research grant. I was just a geology grad student tracking subterranean acoustics. Part of the project involved installing vibration sensors in old buildings, abandoned structures where ground noise could be measured without interference, earthquakes, groundwater shifts, that kind of thing. Belridge was perfect, isolated, stone foundation, deep basement levels. The county gave us access for 2 months. I didn't expect to be working alone. My partner backed out the night before our trip. Bad feeling, she said. Wouldn't elaborate, so I went alone. The building creaked like a shipwreck. Doors warped with time. Stained tiles. Ceiling panels hanging loose like dead skin. I set up base in what had once been the administrative wing. Ran extension cords through cracked walls. Placed seismic mics down in the lowest level, what the original blueprint called the hydrotherapy ward. The elevator didn't work, so I had to descend by flashlight. 5 levels down, the air got thicker with every step. The last door was rusted, but unlocked. Beyond it, a corridor lined with empty bathtubs and chains, bolted into the walls. I didn't linger, just placed the mic, marked it on my map, and got the hell out. The first few days were uneventful, spent them cataloging data, checking equipment, but on the 4th day, I noticed something strange in the waveform logs. A pattern. At exactly 2:11 a.m., one of the underground mics recorded a burst of vibration. Not seismic. Rhythmic. Knocking. 3 knocks. Pause. Then 2 more. It repeated every night. Always the same. Like code. I thought it might be pipes. Old buildings shift. Settle. But when I went down to inspect, nothing looked disturbed, except the mic had moved. Just slightly. And there were fresh scuff marks near the far wall, like something had been dragged. I didn't sleep well that night, in my dreams. I was in the hydrotherapy ward again, except the tubs weren't empty. They were filled, not with water, but with pale limbs, arms, legs, twisted together like roots, and a face just beneath the surface, staring up at me, mouth open, screaming, but no sound. I woke up gasping, and the log from 2:11 a.m. had a new pattern. This time, the knocking didn't stop. It kept going, slower, heavier, like something walking toward the mic. Then a breath, not wind, breath, right against the sensor. I'm not alone down there. Last night, I stayed awake until 2:11. I sat by the laptop, audio streaming from the mic in real time. Nothing, just low, static. Then, knocks. 3, pause. 2, then footsteps, not echoing like before, louder, closer. Then the mic cut out. I didn't move, couldn't. 10 seconds later, the footsteps continued, not in the feed, in the hallway, right outside my room. I grabbed my flashlight and opened the door. Nothing but the extension cord that powered the basement rig had been unplugged, coiled neatly, and sitting on top of it. Was a small, rusted tag One used for patient ID bracelets. It read, Ward B, immersion hashtag 037, ... I checked the blueprints again. There's no Ward B, not on any official record, but on a penciled-in revision near the hydrotherapy ward. I found a faint outline, a door, unmarked, and what looked like a spiral staircase drawn next to it, descending, ... I went back down this morning. Flashlight, tools, recorder, everything looked normal, or what passes for normal, in that place, until I reached the far wall, the concrete panel. There was warm, and faintly vibrating. I tapped it with the end of a wrench. It sounded hollow, and then something tapped back once. Then again, I dropped the wrench, and ran, ... Tonight, I heard the knocking again, but not from below. From the inside of my closet. I pulled the closet doors open, slowly empty, but the floorboards were wet, damp, like they'd soaked up something from beneath, and etched into the wood, where no stain had ever been before, was the same sequence. 3, pause 2, right next to a spiral drawn in red ink. I don't remember drawing it, but it was fresh. ... I called my old professor that night, told him something wasn't right. He listened, asked me to send him the audio files. I did. A few hours later, he called back. He sounded ... shaken, said the rhythm matched something called a bathymetric echo, a pattern generated underwater, deep underwater, when something massive moves close to the ocean floor. Only this wasn't the ocean, this was under Bell Ridge. ... I asked what it meant. He paused, then said, It's not seismic. It's not natural. If it's echoing, something is responding. Then he hung up. ... I don't know if I'll go back down, but I dream of the staircase. Now, winding down into the dark. Each step wet, with something that smells like rust, and below it, ... a sound like breathing, but not human, something deeper, older, waiting, ... And now, ... the dreams have changed. I'm not just watching anymore, I'm walking down the staircase, my feet soaked, each step squelching like wet leather. I can't stop. Something's guiding me, whispering, in a voice too ancient to belong to any living thing. It says, return, complete the cycle. My hands are stained red when I wake up, but there's no blood in my room, only rust on the doorknob, and beneath the floorboards. I swear, I can hear the staircase turning. ... Tomorrow, I go back down, if I don't come back. ... If the knocking starts behind your walls. ... Don't answer, because the silence below isn't empty. It's listening, and it remembers. When I was 19, I worked as a janitor at a defunct medical facility that had been turned into a storage site for the state. The building was officially called Halcyon Medical Annex, but no one who worked there called it that. We just called it the Annex. It was a squat, 4-story structure in the middle of nowhere, ringed by chain-link fence and security lights that never worked. Inside were hundreds of crates, abandoned beds, medical files, forgotten wheelchairs. My job was to clean the top 3 floors and sweep the stairwells. The basement, off-limits. They never told me why, just that the basement was for records containment only and not to be accessed by janitorial staff. But there was a key, a single key on my ring marked B01. I never used it, not until the night I forgot my phone in the 3rd floor hallway and had to come back late. ... It was around 10:45 p.m. The building was supposed to be empty, lights out, alarms on. But as I stepped into the main entrance, ... I heard something from below, scraping metal, dragging on tile, then soft, wheezing laughter. ... I should have called someone, should have left, but I walked to the stairwell and stared down into the dark. It was freezing, colder than it had ever been before. My breath came out in fog, and I swear the door at the bottom was slightly open. That was when I remembered the key. B01. I don't know what made me do it. Curiosity, stupidity, but I went down. The staircase was narrow and steep, lined with yellowed brick and mold. The air smelled like wet iron. When I reached the bottom, I pulled out the key. It slid into the lock like it had just been oiled. The door opened without a sound. Inside was nothing like I expected. No shelves, no filing cabinets, no signs of stored records. Just a wide square room. Empty. Except for a janitor's cart. One exactly like mine. Mop, bleach, gloves, empty, water jug, and a large keyring with only one key missing. Then the lights buzzed overhead. Flickered and turned off. Something moved in the dark. Shuffling. Breathing. The dragging sound returned, closer now. I backed up toward the door, but it was gone. Just blank wall behind me. A light blinked on overhead. Just one, and beneath it stood a figure, tall, gaunt, in a janitor's uniform, just like mine, but his face, was covered in bandages, sloppy, stained only. His mouth was visible, stretched wide in a grin that never moved. He held out his hand. Something was in it, a key, identical to mine, and around his wrist, a tag. B01, clearance permanent. He took one step forward. The lights behind him turned on, revealing the room extended far past what I'd seen. Rows of janitor carts, dozens, hundreds, each with gloves, each with bleach, each with a ring of keys, all missing one. I don't remember how I got out, just that. I woke up on the third floor the next morning, keyring beside me, except now there were no labels, just deep scratches where the letters had been, and one key still marked, not etched, but burned: B-01. I quit that day, moved states, never looked back. But last week, I got a package, no return address. Inside was a uniform, janitor, single quotes, same as before, same size, and at the bottom of the box, a new KEYRING. This time with no keys at all, just a tag that read, "Welcome back, BO2. I threw it away. But the next morning, it was sitting on my nightstand, clean, polished, waiting. I took it to a locksmith, told him I wanted the tag destroyed. He went into the back. A minute later, he came out pale. "I don't work on federal property," he muttered, and handed it back. Federal property. There was no emblem, no seal, only a faint heat that seeped from the metal. That night, I heard a knock at my door, 3 slow taps, then a pause, then 2 more, the same pattern I'd heard in the basement. I didn't open it, but in the morning, my apartment door was unlocked. Inside, my closet was open, and on the floor, was a mop bucket, full of dark red water, bleach on the rim, and a glove, floating inside. My glove, the one I lost in the basement. There's something wrong with Halcyon Annex. Something wrong with that room. It doesn't want cleaners. It makes cleaners. I think there's always been a BO1 and AB-02 and ABO3, and we all vanish when we're done, folded into the next room, like mops into a cart. My hand keeps reaching for the keyring, even when I don't mean to. The burn mark on the metal feels warm in my palm, like it's been waiting. I don't know what's in that basement, but I think I'm going back, because some jobs, you don't quit, they follow you.